Okay. If it's 3 p.m. Eastern Time on a Wednesday, that can mean just one thing. It's time for the goRIA live stream. I'm Chuck Fala. And as I like to do on most Wednesday afternoons, is put a little spotlight on what is new on www.goria.com. Today's no different. So we have a new podcast that dropped just this morning and had a really great guest, someone I've been trying to get on the show for a while. And finally, the stars aligned and I was able to get her on. The one, the only, Mindy Diamond from Diamond Consultants. Now, if you've been an advisor for any period of time, you know who Mindy is, and you certainly know Diamond Consultants. And they have been responsible for really teaching a lot of advisors about the different options they have, not just going RIA. We kind of joke about that, but certainly the RIA space has become more and more popular, but they still do the whole gamut of BD, IBD, and RIA. So all the acronyms. And as a lot of you may already know, Mindy wrote a book with a really cool name. It's called Should I Stay or Should I Go? Appropriately enough, for someone that helps answer that exact question for just a ton of advisors. I don't want to quote it. I'm not sure if it's hundreds or if it's thousands. It's probably thousands over the years, but certainly a lot of advisors they delivered a lot of education to on helping them answer that exact question. And I really had the pleasure of sitting down with Mindy and recording this podcast to give a little tease for what she's talking about in the book, and it's really good stuff. So as I like to do when we drop a new podcast, I'm going to play a little segment for you in just a moment to give you an idea of what we talked about, Mindy and I. But I would encourage you, especially if you are thinking about any kind of transition, if you're looking to go RIA or go IBD, whatever it is, this is sort of a non-denominational podcast again, where you're going to have a little tidbit no matter what you're looking for. So here's a little taste.
General across the spectrum. But I'll tell you a funny story. When I was sitting down to write the book and got to the point where I had to really come up with a title, do we use something as trite as should I stay or should I go? So tried it a million different titles. There was nothing that sort of nailed it as well as that. And then, of course, on a Google search, there are other books entitled Should I Stay or Should I Go? And they were about abusive marriages and about divorce. And I'm thinking, oh, my God. But it nailed it. And so I thank you. I'm glad you appreciated it.
I got to be honest, that kind of sounds like the broker-dealer world to me a little bit. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Dun-dun-dun. Dun-dun-dun. Little humor here, folks. Okay. All good. So, look, there's a lot I want to unpack here because it's such an important topic. And for sure, you know, the broker-dealer world has its space without question, as of the RIA space. We're going to talk about all this. So what I would like to do is kind of go through some of the general topics you covered in this book and maybe unpack some of those. So the first thing I think that you touch upon in this book is the idea of goal identification, which I get the idea, but I want to hear it from you. How are you framing that for advisors that come to you for guidance on, I guess, number one, what are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals? How do you help them identify that?
Yeah. So I think that's, any smart self-exploration, any strategic idea of due diligence has to start with what do you want to be when you grow up? It's got to be an inside job. I think a lot of advisors get it wrong. They do the opposite. They get calls from either recruiters like me or from managers at other firms or a buddy of theirs that moved from one firm to another. And they say, I'll take a meeting, I'll take a lunch. Before they know it, they've taken 10. And they have lots of information in their head and they're wind up more confused than they were when they started. Why? Because they didn't take the time to really identify what success looks like. What does true north look like? What do I want to be when I grow up? So I wrote the book because I believed that there was a real gap, a knowledge gap in terms of how advisors, what are the questions that an advisor should ask themselves in order to get a real sense of what success looks like, what should come next. And by the way, and I want to say this from the get-go, I did not write the book as a sales pitch. It in no way is a book that tries to talk advisors or suggest that everybody should move. I wrote the book, and actually the people that have been most excited about it are those that have no intention of moving, but who are really interested in just optimizing their business, maximizing its value, making sure they're in the right place. And so the questions they need to ask themselves are, do I have access to everything I need to best serve clients? What's limiting me? How important is freedom, flexibility, and control? Essentially, what do I want to be when I grow up? And the book lists about 15 of those really insightful questions that should be the starting point for anything that comes after that.
Okay, I love that to frame this entire discussion. That's perfect. So, uh, without going through all 15, right? We'll save that for those people that should get this book. But what are the top one or two or three that we can kick off a little discussion with?
Yeah. So, how important is transition money? So, 30 years ago when I started the business, if you were an advisor working at Merrill Lynch, there were two choices if you were unhappy. You either stayed where you were and just dealt with it, or you moved to Morgan Stanley or what was
Right.
was Payne Webber or UBS at the time. But today it's as
Okay, so that was just a little taste of what Mindy and I spoke about. And as you can see, we covered a lot of important stuff, but also had quite a bit of fun as well. And she's a great sport. So if you are looking to go RIA, and she makes a really good point on this, even if you're looking to stay where you are, a lot of what she covers in this book is really addressing on how to optimize your business. And as part of that, to see if where you are currently allows you to optimize. And if not, maybe you do have to answer that question yourself. Should you stay or should you go? So check it out. It's the number one podcast on the list right now. So all you have to do is go to www.goRIA.com and you'll see that as well as all the other podcasts we've been doing. I think we're on episode 37 or 38 by now. So anyway, that's it for me for this week. So on behalf of goRIA, fueled by Investment News, I'm Chuck Valeb, and I'll see you next Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Thanks for joining us. Take care.